Long, long ago, in a time when animals and humans lived side by side, there was a tortoise named Mr. Tortoise. Unlike the bald tortoises we know today, Mr. Tortoise had a thick, luscious mane of hair that flowed down his shell. He was proud of his hair and often spent hours grooming it, making sure it was always neat and shiny. His hair was the talk of the village, and he loved the attention it brought him. One day, as Mr. Tortoise was wandering through the village, he spotted a beautiful young woman. She had a warm smile, kind eyes, and a gentle voice that made his heart skip a beat. Mr. Tortoise was smitten and decided right then and there that he wanted to marry her. He gathered all his courage and approached her family, asking for her hand in marriage. The girl's parents, impressed by Mr. Tortoise's polite manners and his famous hair, accepted his proposal with open arms. From that day on, Mr. Tortoise made frequent visits to the family. He wanted to prove himself as a worthy husband and spent a lot of time getting to know his future in-laws. Every time he visited, the girl's mother would prepare a delicious meal. Mr. Tortoise always admired the way she cooked with love and care, making sure every dish was perfect. The aroma of her cooking would fill the house, making everyone's mouth water, including Mr. Tortoise's. One particular day, Mr. Tortoise arrived at the family's home just as the girl's mother was preparing a pot of yam porridge. The smell of the yam, simmering with spices and herbs, was so enticing that it made Mr. Tortoise's stomach rumble loudly. The mother, hearing his stomach, invited him to join the family for the meal. But Mr. Tortoise, wanting to appear humble and self-controlled, politely declined.
"Oh, no, thank you,"
he said with a forced smile.
"I am quite full from my earlier meal."
However, as he watched the family eat, Mr. Tortoise's desire for the yam porridge grew stronger and stronger. He could hardly focus on anything else. The sight of the family enjoying the meal, laughing and talking, made him wish he had accepted the invitation. But his pride wouldn't let him admit his mistake. After the meal, the family members went to rest, leaving Mr. Tortoise alone with his future mother-in-law in the sitting room. She was a kind woman who enjoyed talking, and she wanted to spend more time getting to know Mr. Tortoise. As they chatted, she suddenly felt the need to use the bathroom and excused herself, leaving Mr. Tortoise alone. The moment she was out of sight, Mr. Tortoise's thoughts turned to the pot of yam porridge still in the kitchen. The temptation was too strong to resist. He crept into the kitchen, making sure no one was watching, and quickly scooped a large portion of the steaming hot porridge into his cap. He placed the cap back on his head, intending to take the food home and enjoy it in private. But as he returned to the sitting room, he began to feel the heat of the porridge seeping through his cap. At first, it was just a warm sensation, but soon it became unbearable. The hot porridge was burning through his hair and onto his head. Mr. Tortoise tried to stay calm, forcing a smile as his future mother-in-law returned and resumed their conversation. But the pain was growing, and beads of sweat began to form on his forehead.
"Are you sure you're all right, Mr. Tortoise?"
the mother asked, noticing his discomfort.
Yes, I'm perfectly fine."
He lied, though his voice wavered. The heat was now unbearable, and he could feel his precious hair scorching. He tried to shift in his seat, hoping to find some relief, but it was no use. The longer he sat there, the worse the pain became. His pride, however, kept him rooted to his spot, unwilling to admit what he had done. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Mr. Tortoise leapt to his feet, shouting,
My head! My head!"
He tore off his cap, revealing his bald, burnt head. The once glorious hair that had been his pride and joy was gone, burnt away by the very food he had stolen. The mother gasped in shock, and the rest of the family rushed in, drawn by the commotion. "What happened?" they asked, but it was clear to everyone what had occurred. Mr. Tortoise, in his greed and pride, had tried to steal the yam porridge and had paid the price. Ashamed and humiliated, he fled from the house, leaving his cap and his pride behind. From that day on, Mr. Tortoise was known as the Bald Tortoise, and he learned a lesson that he would never forget. Though he lost his hair, he gained something far more valuable, a lesson in humility, honesty, and the dangers of pride. From that day on, Mr. Tortoise walked through the village, no longer proud, but humble and wise. He understood that greed and dishonesty lead to nothing but pain and loss. Moral lessons. 1. Pride comes before a fall. Tortoise's need to protect his pride caused him great pain and embarrassment. It's important to recognize when our pride is leading us down the wrong path and to correct it before it's too late. 2. Honesty is always the best policy. Had Mr. Tortoise been honest about his desire to eat, he would have avoided the entire ordeal. Honesty builds trust and respect, while dishonesty leads to shame and embarrassment. 3. Greed can cost you dearly. Tortoise's greed for the yam porridge led to the loss of his prized hair. Greed may promise satisfaction, but it often leads to regret and loss. 4. Contentment brings peace. If Tortoise had been content with what he had, he would have enjoyed his visit without any trouble. Contentment allows us to appreciate the present moment without yearning for more. 5. Humility over pride. Mr. Tortoise's downfall was caused by his pride. He wanted to appear humble, but his actions showed otherwise. True humility comes from the heart and not from appearances. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales that teach us valuable lessons. Remember, humility and honesty are the true marks of wisdom. Thanks for watching and God bless you.